This is The Groove in the podcast studio at Mao. Non-stop interviews. And I just can't wait to send live because they're from across the ecosystem, every type of app. Games marketers have had today. Now one of my favorites because it's like gaming. It's a center and the connection, I think. Fintech apps. And my guest, Eddie Behringer, CEO, co-founder of Copper. Great to have you, first of all. And the thing I love about fintech is it's almost like wellness, you know? It's about financial wellness. There's so many opportunities to do more than just save or invest. What are you doing at Copper to make that more of an experience than a utility?
Well, thanks for having me, Peggy. This is awesome. So our mission at Copper is to create the first financially successful generation. So we have a direct-to-consumer banking and investing platform for the next generation. So teens, their parents, and young adults. And so, you know, the way that we really get to that goal is really using a lot of gamification tactics that games have been super popular to basically build in financial education to their first primary bank account in a way that big banks have never focused on. And, you know, I think a big gaudy problem that we thought was pretty important to solve.
So I was right. You are focused on the experience. See, that's really key because it is at the intersection of so much. And you nailed it. Gamification fits. It's part of the educational process. And you're educating people, young people, to invest. How are you going about that?
What we learned really early on is if you're a teen, they all want something, right? So whether they keep the, you know, list of that on the notes app on their phone or, you know, in their head. And so the way that we built it is when you onboard to Copper, you just tell Copper what you want. And really it's a way for us to meet them where they are, but then start to really build some gamification around what we all know are our savings goals, for example. So that they can dynamically see through the product, truly learn by doing, really through the usage of their first primary bank account and first opportunity to invest, how to truly learn these key principles that took a lot of us a long time, or maybe we still don't know them today.
That's interesting because I was talking to one fintech app. It's a company called Nemo, and it's more about the newbies. So it's one step up from where you are. You want to get them to start saving. This was about getting people to invest, but was still very much an educational process. And there's multiple ways to go about that because you have to bring them with you, because that's going to increase engagement in the app, and that's going to also ultimately create advocacy. And this company was doing it through AI, which I thought was very interesting. So that's just one way to do it. How are you bringing your users, these young users, very, very newbie, with you? Because it is a process. Gamification is going to keep their attention, but they're going to want to have a feeling of achievement or success along the way that says, yes, I'm getting closer to my financial goals, maybe not just the leaderboard, right?
The way that we've approached it is we actually truly meet them where they are, meaning that we have a pretty unique go-to-market strategy that I think most fintechs or mobile apps haven't really approached. And so the way that we do that is we literally send people into high schools across America.
Oh, smart.
And so
we know who did that.
Yeah, so that it's how we built our previous company, which was called SnapRaise, to pretty large consumer scale by essentially partnering with schools. Where we run a free financial education workshop. We've also invested about $5 million in building a curriculum that maps directly to the state standards so that we can really meet them where they are from a school perspective and then have them invite their parents to Copper. And in that invite process, they can see, holy crap, my kid's being proactive about their financial future for the first time.
That's great. That'll get them on board.
Yeah, exactly.
So you get both constituencies. That's so smart.
Exactly.
You've got the parents, because there has to be at some level buy-in, right? They are children. Ambitious children, but you want to get them to support it. And I was hinting at the idea of Facebook, you know, it's like go deep down into the roots. So you've gone into high schools, right? And build curriculum. So that also builds credibility for the app, I imagine.
For us, really building trust within a family is obviously a really difficult thing to do, especially for a financial product that is, you know, typically placed in the family in a predatory manner where, you know, you get a credit card with a an APY that is just way beyond what it should, or a credit
Mm-hmm.
limit beyond what it should be. And I think the really cool consumer shift we've seen is that if I would have went to my mom when I was in high school and said, hey, I found Copper, this great product I want to use, they'd offer me a lot that I can't get at the bank branch, she would have smacked me. And that parents have always made that choice.
Yes.
I think the interesting thing about Gen Z and now Gen Alpha is they're very powerful within decision making in the household. And so
yeah, and tech.
Exactly, and technology.
They own tech. If they say this is a good app,
yep,
you have to trust them.
Yep, exactly. So that's the big shift and kind of a unique entry point that we found that obviously large financial institutions haven't thought of or spent the time to invest in.
What's really cool about what you can do is you can also provide a little bit of a feedback loop, because everybody, so I look deeply into player psychology, and one of the things is you have to have a sense of achievement, that you keep at it. You got to make certain it's not boring. One minute it's boring, you'll lose your players. It's similar here. You can build the gamification to reinforce personal goals. So it's not just gamification for the sake of keeping them in the app. You can reinforce achievement. Are you doing that? Because that's an excellent opportunity, because then you'll sort of have the self-fulfilling prophecy of successful users that are happy with your app.
Yep, 100%. So we have borrowed a lot of those core principles, built basically an in-game currency that they can then convert as they're making progress towards their financial goals to, real US dollars that are
back in the account.
Yep, they go directly into their Copper account. And so, we progress, as you said, and engagement for us is everything. I think the cool advantage we have versus a lot of mobile apps is your first primary bank account and the account that you use when you're 18, 19. We have, 25-year-olds on the platform. It's already by nature a high retention product, right? In that you're using it consistently. If you're investing and using roundups, it's something that, you engage in quite a bit. And so we build on top of that engagement with our, what we call creds, that they can, really track their progress, like you said, in engagement, but from a financial wellness perspective within the product.
So really, to take it from gaming, it's not play to earn, it's play to learn.
Yep,
cool.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. What does the gamification look like? Let's unpack that a little bit, because we are very sophisticated now. And gamification before, that was like, oh, let's stick in a race car game. I remember early days talking when Barclays did this. Let's just stick a racing game in there and a leaderboard. It's not that easy.
Yep.
How are you approaching it?
Yeah, I think the key thing that we found is when you just gamify via leaderboards, or even, for us, we thought social context would be big. I think what we learned really early on is, especially for young people, you don't necessarily want to be social about your finances all the time. And so those same kind of triggers that for other gamification apps have worked are different when it comes to finance. And so what we've really doubled down on is just truly progress. And I think the thing that has tremendous social cachet is not how much money you have, but how smart you become about money. So you had the meme stock craze, right? Where there's all these fin influencers that are probably giving bad advice. The cool part about that is just the attention to the space and the social cachet of it. And so we've really leveraged the fact that as you are progressing, there is a lot of social clout that comes along with that, but it's less about like, how much money do I have? It's more about like, hey, I actually understand this
about it.
Exactly.
Okay. This is very interesting to me. When exactly did you launch the app?
We've founded Copper about 4 years ago. Spent the first year and a half building a ton of banking technology and partnering with a partner bank and to do what we do. We've been in market now for a little over 3.5 years, and in that time have onboarded 3 million members onto the platform.
That's impressive. And you've laid a very, very interesting groundwork that cultivates, I think, more members. You might have 3 million now, but when you go into schools and you influence curriculum and you try to teach resourcefulness, which is, a skill lacking,
Yeah.
you get your advocates by default. It will happen. What about working with the gamification concepts themselves? Because you can say, do a quiz. You can take the rewarded from the gaming app space. Watch an ad, earn a credit. How are you making gamification always interesting, always evolving? Because as you said yourself, it's about progress. So if they want progress in their financial wellness and lives, what are they getting to progress in the gamification?
The concept we've really been building on top of is really the concept of streaks. And so, there's multiple ways you can think about streaks and progress. We've kind of abstracted it from just simply, it being completing a quiz. I think that's just kind of base level engagement for getting into the product. It's more about, are you actually using the product in a way that for us, we know drives great engagement and retention. We have less than 0.5% account closure churn a month. And so, when you think about kind of weekly, daily, monthly active metrics for a mobile app, that's obviously really good, but it's built into the fact that a lot of the streaks in gamification is, are you deeply engaged in using the core things in the product that we know at the end of the day will drive, kind of that long-term retention and lock.
Any really cool ideas or innovations in gamification? Because you can do, cool, interesting things. And the research shows that, people do want to have personal offers. They want to be treated as individuals. They don't mind reward, I wouldn't say schemes, but reward approaches and programs. If they can get real world rewards, which they would, they're putting their money in their account. So all different ways you can take this. What is the most interesting, maybe even the wildest thing you're trying out to build that engagement and to let them pay and earn, learn?
Yes. So the most exciting thing for us has truly been giving our users the ability to earn money. And so up until a while ago, you could save money, you could invest money in Copper, and by using the product, really build on those core pillars of financial education. Now that we provide our users the ability to earn money, we've seen the engagement skyrocket.
How do they earn the money?
So we have partnerships with actual games that they're already playing. What we also see is our top 3 spending categories are, as you can imagine, PlayStation, Xbox, casual mobile games. A lot of conversations in the family between moms and kids about the amount of money that's spent on these platforms. And so what we allow, both parents and teens to do is the ability to actually earn money as they're already playing those games.
Because they're already playing them.
Yep, exactly.
How does that work with the gaming companies? I'm just curious, because margins are margins and they've got to give you something. It's not out of friendship. But again, gaming companies, they're also a bit squeezed. They're a little bit cautious as well. How are you able to get the gaming companies on board? What are they getting out of it? Or how are you negotiating and brokering those deals?
Yeah, so candidly, this is something that we kind of fell into. And as we allowed the opportunity for parents as well to essentially earn money to put into their kids' accounts, we started to see that, kind of unbeknownst to us, we had a pretty strong casual gaming community within the product. And so what we've done is we've just started our first couple partnerships and have just seen it really, really take off as far as us having the ability to have a verified audience, right? Since we have banking regulations, they're KYC'd, we know who they are. And then since we also have good insight into, their top spending categories, we know who these, who these families are and who these young adults and parents are who are already really deeply engaged in these mobile games. And so, for us, it's been, as far as kind of like that triangle of, what's best for our customer, for Copper, and then, for the gaming partner, we've kind of realized that there's a pretty strong fit there. And honestly, something we never thought we would fall into.
Not this strongly. I mean, I do see because going way back to, again, credit cards and gamification, I saw that, but that's years ago, and it didn't really work. But this is something very different because you're influencing behavior. And the behavior probably comes back in another way because what you're doing is you're learning from behavior. There's probably a little bit of first party data play going on there as well. What is the benefit of this to Copper? I guess a sub question is, of course, how you monetize it. But there is a reason to do it, and there is a reason to do it differently this time.
Yeah. So, I mean, for us at Copper, we want to just anything we can do to drive retention and engagement for us through providing them the ability to actually earn money allows us to achieve our goal and purpose long term, right? And so as we looked at, a competitive fintech space where you have, other kind of digital only banks that provide, fee-free types of products, we felt like we want to continue to deliver value that a bank or even a digital bank might not offer. And for us, the usage and engagement and the retention is really everything. And so if we can allow, folks the ability to earn and have that drive towards our financial education goal, that's awesome for us. And so we've just seen this as a really great tool for us to achieve that.
And how does that work? I mean, you've got a little bit of a hybrid model going on as well, because you're going to have, you've got your play to learn. So they are earning money, but they're doing something for it. What are you doing? Are you earning from that engagement, or how are you monetizing the app actually?
Yeah, so we were set up in a similar way. Obviously, we're not a large marketplace ourselves, but we have a partnership with a gaming studio, and we receive compensation for when a new customer comes in, installs the product. I think what we've heard, at least early, is since we're not kind of your typical reward kind of product or app, in that they come to us really for the banking application for starters, we have just much more engaged and long-term retentive users.
They came to you.
Exactly. Yeah. And so those are kind of how we've started to open up our marketplace from that perspective.
It's a universal requirement to think more about your financial future. You're live in the US. Are you thinking of expanding elsewhere?
Right now, just in the U.S.
Okay, because it would be interesting globally as well.
Yeah, we started to look at markets, in LATAM. The UK would be a primary kind of place that we would go next. There are 4 million new 14-year-olds that reload this pipeline every single year, and with the retention we're seeing, we've seen a ton of them transition to adulthood on the product, and so feel like there's still a ton of market here in the US, but know that, there's a lot, it's a big world out there for sure.
So the acquisition is word of mouth, or is it paid? Are you doing, I'm thinking it's a little bit similar to like a sweat coin in the sense that you could just send them all out and they could be influencers for themselves, There's an element of that the audience could do the advertising for you because they love it already. Yep. How are you getting the new users?
60% of our growth comes organically through word of mouth.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we're lucky also to have a really good performance marketing team that will kind of take what we see regionally. We have a metric, it's called tipping a school, where we try to get over 50% of the student enrollment using the product, and you see the network effects when you get that saturation in a small geo. The power of that, if you haven't seen it live, it's just so powerful to have a lot of people in one area using the product.
That just sort of spreads. You can see the model of just like dots, more dots.
Yep.
I can see that.
Yep.
Speaking of dots and clustering, it makes me think again about personalization, because maybe it's not so critical here because they're telling you what they want. But then if they told you what they want that back. So there is a level of now you have to deliver on a personal offer and treat them like individuals. So if you come back with some sort of generic stuff, maybe they want to play in a different type of game. Maybe they want a different type of offer. How do you handle the fact that, yes, they chose you, but now they want you to treat them with that same respect or as an individual, let's say?
Yep. Candidly, we're early in the process, but what we're doing is we we have tremendous, I mean, millions of data points that we're ingesting from all the transaction level data, which would allow us, as we continue to go down this path, to, like you said, truly personalize the experience in a way that you wouldn't be able to if you weren't Bank of America or JP Morgan Chase.
Yeah.
And so we've just kind of scratched the surface there, and are starting, as this is really kind of new to us, to really start to be able to do some of that personalization. But we do have a whole team that's thinking about it and focused on it, in a really, really good call out.
That's going to be a very fascinating Petri dish, because what works there really, really works. I'm sure even your gaming studio partners now and in the future would just want to know that, you know, what works, what doesn't, what do these new players who are ultimately going to be later real players, they're 14 now, but they're not forever. And later on, they can go into the full casual game or the hybrid casual game. And if you take those data points and behavior with you, that's really something special. What role does data play in all of this for you? Is this also at some level also the prize, or is this just a byproduct? Or have you thought really about, within privacy concerns, of course, but there's a lot you can do with what you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at Copper, we have an extremely data-driven culture. It really is in our DNA. At our previous company, I also led product, and so I am a little bit of the product geek from that perspective.
Okay.
As we think about the power of data moving forward, I think as we bring together the purchase level information, the behavioral data we have in the product and progression, we just have, like you're alluding to, a tremendous opportunity to make the experience as good as we can for our members. And so, you know, I think the sky's the limit there as far as what we can do.
And modeling data, which is gold, I have to get back to you for just a moment, because that's just the point. This is a blue ocean, smart move, but it's not the first blue ocean in your career. I was reading through it. I was like, this is sort of what you do.
Yep.
What makes you do what you do? What is it about this? And where do you see, you found an opportunity. Maybe you can help me understand what helps you frame that, because then there are people in the audience who can say, yes, I see an opportunity too. There is still an opportunity in the app space. That's inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, I think for myself, and what gets me out of bed in the morning is truly doing something that has a really large consumer impact in a positive fashion. And so our previous company was a fundraising platform that allowed you to do what you love most by basically taking door-to-door fundraising and bringing that online, you know, for communities. And I think as we think about some of the opportunities that we see, I mean, we just had a bunch of banks reach out to us and say, hey, at our previous company, you have 17 million teens and parents. Could we put a credit card in their hands? Right?
That could be a disaster.
And that's,
giving 17 million teens a credit card. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's where we saw how predatory some financial institutions are. And so we were like, oh, well, we have this pretty unique way to reach them through a trusted source, and felt like we were pretty uniquely suited. And I think for my co-founder and I, it's just being so close to the space, and you just start to see these unique opportunities. And as we've gotten into really truly mobile acquisition, is we use what we do on the ground to inform how we then layer on traditional kind of paid social and other channels, not as the primary go-to-market, but what kind of accelerates kind of that fire that's getting started. And it's just kind of like working through this process iteratively that you kind of see where these opportunities, you know, present themselves. And in hindsight, it seems like logical, but, you know, it just takes, I think, just really wanting to really help and be in a space for a long time to kind of follow it.
Well, great to chat with you. I'll be watching this, and it can go in many, many different directions. I'm glad you didn't take it in commerce. That'd be self-defeating. Games is good. Don't say, oh yeah, what do you want your wish list, and then buy it. It's about saving.
Right.
Thanks so much, and do keep me posted on what you're doing. It is a fascinating model and a smart move. Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Peggy. Appreciate it.